Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals publish to inform their audiences, to grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. We're doing a series of spotlights on remarkable attorneys with a focus on elder law and estate planning from across the country. Joining me on this segment from Mequon, Wisconsin is Jessica Liebau. Jessica, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Jessica, I know that elder law and estate planning is a broad topic. Please give us a glimpse at your areas of focus and the types of clients that you serve.
Right. Yeah. Most people don't know what elder law is unless they have seen an elder law attorney. So estate planning is certainly part of it. And that's, your wills and trusts and powers of attorney. But with elder law, we're kind of a niche group, and we're focusing on issues that specifically impact older individuals. So most of what we're doing is we're trying to balance protecting people, because we know as we age, there's issues with disabilities or health issues or things like that, and balancing that with everybody's right to be independent and practice autonomy and self-determination. So a lot of what we do is balancing those things. So we work in our office, me and the one other attorney I practice with, we do powers of attorney, but we also do guardianships. We do a lot of public benefit planning, a lot of work related to nursing homes. How do you get into a nursing home? How do you pay for a long-term care facility? What are your rights in the long-term care facility? So we're working really closely, not just with that older individual, but very commonly also a broader array of people, a spouse, children, because there can be a lot of people involved in this decision. So we're working to help find solutions proactively, but a lot of times we're also figuring out what the best tool is to resolve issues, because this can be a very stressful time for a lot of people, especially if they're dealing with a medical crisis or a death in the family or a long-term care crisis. So we're also helping people figure out how to resolve disputes, whether it's in court or mediation. So within that little bubble of elder law, there's a lot of things going on.
As we record this, we're in the middle of Elder Law Month, and we've really been eager to bring more awareness to this topic. As you mentioned, there's not a lot of people that understand elder law. Can you tell folks that, that don't even know where to start? Like, what are the main things that they need to get their ducks in a row, and how early should they start planning?
Well, we're biased because we're attorneys, but our preference is for people to do this as soon as possible. And the first thing we tell people to do, if they have the ability to do it, is get powers of attorney in place. So the laws differ a little bit state to state, but every state has some sort of law for getting a financial power of attorney in place and a healthcare power of attorney, which is sometimes called a healthcare proxy or advance directive, depending on which state you're in. Those are the documents that allow you to say who you want helping out with decisions if you're alive, but if you're not able to do so yourself. So it gives you the ability to be in the driver's seat, pick the people you trust, give them the powers you want them to have, and then have the opportunity to explain to them how you want them to exercise that. That makes sure your wishes are honored, and to the extent possible, keeps you out of guardianship court. And in terms of when to do them, our hope is that people do them as soon as they turn age 18. Or whatever the age of majority is in your state. Because a lot of people say, well, I'll do it when I'm old. And turns out old is a moving target. The older you get, the farther away that seems. But we don't want to wait until there's some sort of emergency, or, all of a sudden there's some urgency and maybe we don't have the ability to do them anymore. So as attorneys, we're always telling people prepare, do it early. And then if you need to change it or modify it over time, you certainly can, but get those in place.
So what are some of the dangers? Let's approach it that way. So what are the dangers? You mentioned it could cause a lot of stress by not having any of those ducks in a row. What are some of the dangers of not being properly prepared and the benefits of being prepared?
Well, unfortunately, the last year dealing with COVID kind of magnified some of the issues that we always deal with. So, particularly with so many of our clients that were in long-term care facilities, we know that a lot of those people were literally locked down, locked in their rooms, locked in their facilities. Family members couldn't go in, lawyers couldn't go in, nobody was allowed in. The concern then is for people either in those facilities or if they were hospitalized, who can get information about how they're doing? Who can call up and ask the nurse's station or the social worker, how's this person doing? What are the issues they've been having? What needs to happen? If you don't have, the right documents in place, there were families who had an incredibly difficult time getting that done. And also your agent can also serve as an advocate for you, because if you are in that situation, whether you're hospitalized, of any age, or for folks in long-term care facilities, your agent's going to be the squeaky wheel, the person who can file complaints on your behalf, or who can talk to the administrators and make sure that you're getting the right care and that things are happening properly. So if you didn't have those documents, then we were stuck trying to get guardianship for people, which is a court process for getting a decision maker in place sometimes if people didn't have those documents. And with the courts being shut down, that provided a whole, so it was a really extreme situation. Usually the courts are not shut down. Usually you can get into facilities, but it showed, there's some practical issues that come up. If you get your planning in place, it's one less thing you have to worry about.
As I've been learning more about elder law, my marketing brain kind of kicked in and said to myself, you know what, it's really that they kick the can down the road, because it sounds like you do this when you're old, but really it sounds like you're planning for independence almost. It's like a living plan. They can start when they're 18. And if you could wave a magic wand and tell folks when they're 18, 19, that they can get a plan in place now, and be able to adapt it in the future, what would you tell them so that they would get started on it?
It's hard because that's what we struggle with, right? A lot of so we don't just deal with older individuals at our office. We do estate planning as well for the younger individuals. And a lot of times what gets the younger individuals to do it is seeing mom and dad struggle with something, or seeing, trying to help mom and dad and realizing that there were all these problems that could have been resolved. So, it's a lot of personal experience. So for people who luckily have not had to deal with that personal experience, the hope is if we can share these stories of people, because it's not just something that we're trying to advocate for so that we can bring more business in. Now, we run a business, but to be honest with you, doing a guardianship for somebody, having to go to court and get decision makers in place, that's a lot more expensive, and an attorney makes a lot more money on it than doing a simple power of attorney document or set of documents. But the thing that people don't understand, that I think they're surprised by when we talk to them, is if you have a power of attorney, their job is to do what you want them to do in a given situation. A guardian, if you have to go to court and have a guardian appointed, the guardian's job is to do what they think is in your best interest, which may or may not be what you want. So I always give the example of my grandpa when I talk to clients about this. He was this, very old school farmer in Western Wisconsin, and his doctor had kind of told him, oh, if you do all these different things, we can add a little bit to your life. If you cut out all the sweets and sodium and you eat super healthy and do all. And my grandpa was like, but why would I want to live if I had to do all of that stuff? It sounds like a silly example, but it's, if you do powers of attorney and you're conscious with talking to your named people about what you want for your quality of life and what you want your life to look like and how you want your money managed, there's a much greater chance that you are going to stay in the driver's seat no matter what happens in the future. So that's the bottom line that we're trying to get through to people.
That's sage advice. Jessica, what inspired you to focus on elder law and estate planning? How did you get started in the field?
When I was in law school, I had no idea that this is what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something where I was working directly with people versus the type of law where you're in your office kind of crunching numbers or whatever. And there's people who are great at that. And I had some experiences in law school that really kind of opened my eyes to how interesting and diverse a practice area this was. So I worked with a legal services agency that provides services to low income individuals and saw the issues people have trying to get on benefits that they were entitled to, but they didn't know how to navigate the system and fill out the paperwork. And I interned with the Milwaukee County Court, which is a big courthouse downtown in Milwaukee, with the attorneys who handle guardianships and mental health cases. And that was a whole area of law that I had never seen before and had no idea what all that entailed. And it's so interesting. It's complex. You get to work with people directly and you get kind of real, immediate results in some cases. Some estate planning, you put it in place, but it's like insurance. You kind of hope you don't need to use it for a while. Some of the other types of elder law, when we're dealing with public benefits or things like that, you see a real immediate impact and you see how you've helped somebody. So while it's not the most glamorous area of law necessarily, it is super satisfying.
It's an area of law where there's not necessarily has to be a winner and a loser. You're just helping everyone get what they want.
Right.
Jessica,
and that's something we educate people on as the family members come in and they're on, they think their sides, and sometimes our job is a little bit aspect of social worker, trying to convince everybody, here's the common goals, here's how we can get there.
For folks listening that are in Wisconsin in areas that you can serve, how can they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
Sure. So as you mentioned, my office is in Mequon, Wisconsin, just north of Milwaukee. My office is called Wessels and Liebau. Pretty intuitive. Me and the other attorney I work with, Carol Wessels. So you can reach us by phone, 262-264-7702. We have a website. We have a Facebook page. We try to make it as easy as possible for people to reach us because we understand a lot of times it's maybe not the senior, it's going to be family members who want to check us out and see what we're all about and make sure that we have the credentials to do the job. So we have a lot of information on our website about all of the different organizations we're involved in and our volunteer work and what we do, so that hopefully people feel comfortable when they're calling us and making that initial contact.
This has been terrific. Jessica, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing insights with my audience today. And I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Well, thank you so much. I'm just glad this is being showcased because the more we can get the word out, the better.
Jessica Liebau from Mequon, Wisconsin. And this segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals publish to inform their audiences, to grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.